Everyone in Banff heads straight for the famous lakes, and yes, they're spectacular, but there's a quieter road that most people drive straight past. One that leads you to a canyon you don't just walk to, you walk through. And a lake hiding a secret that most visitors never know about. And once we found out, we couldn't believe nobody had told us. Today, we're on the Bow Valley Parkway. First stop, Johnston Canyon, before we head to Lake Minnewanka, the biggest lake in Banff National Park. Stunning on the surface, but with something underneath that completely changed how we see this place.
So it's our last morning in Banff. We've got up super early. Following a tip from locals, we're heading out to Johnston Canyon as early as possible, otherwise it does get really busy, and also we can see some wildlife. Just as I'm saying that, here is a deer. He interrupted me.
Our first stop of the day was Johnston Canyon, one of the most popular walks in Banff National Park. Arriving early turned out to be a great decision. The canyon was incredibly peaceful, and with fewer people around, we could really appreciate the beauty of the place. When you arrive, you will have two options: Upper Falls, which is 1.5 miles, or the Lower Falls, which is half a mile. As we had another jam-packed day ahead of us, we chose to do the half-mile walk to the Lower Falls.
So this is Johnston Canyon at 6:45 in the morning. Not the even packed experience many people have told us about.
The trail follows a series of walkways built into the canyon walls, giving you fantastic views down to the crystal clear river as it carves its way through the rock below. The walk itself is relatively easy on a well-paved path, and it's also well signposted, so no worries about getting lost. As we walked further along, you could tell we were getting closer to the falls as the water was getting bluer and the scenery was getting much better.
Okay, so we are at the split at Johnston Canyon, and if we go left, that takes us up to the upper chutes, or if we go right, this is where we go to the lower falls.
After a short walk, we reached the Lower Falls. The power of the water combined with the narrow canyon walls creates a pretty spectacular sight, and it's easy to see why this is one of the most visited spots in the park. Sometimes the most rewarding views don't require a huge hike. And if it's quiet enough, make sure to follow it round to the side as you get a close-up view of the waterfall. After our brief visit here, it was time to head back to the car as we had a few more stops on our journey today.
So that area down in the cave, which we just went through, talking to our distillery tasting guide Annie last night, she was actually saying that coming here with a friend, people were actually queuing way further back up this way in order to get into that little cave. So getting down here early in the day or later in the day, definitely advised, because otherwise you could be queuing from here to get down into there. And as you can see, that is quite a way. And naturally, I'm pretty sure you've got better things to be doing when in Banff area than queuing to get into the cave.
Definitely get here early. There's already groups of people turning up, and it's only 7:10 in the morning. This pathway is pretty narrow, and I wouldn't want to know what it's like when it is super busy, because it's tight enough with just one person. It's taken us about 40 minutes to get to the Lower Falls and back. We're sort of almost back at the car now. There's been a lot of people going past, so I'm assuming that the car park's full now. We'll find out in a minute.
As we arrived back at the car park, one thing became very obvious. The crowds had arrived. What had felt quiet and peaceful earlier was now much busier, with the car park filling up fast. If Johnston Canyon is on your list, arriving early is definitely the way to go. Back on the road, we got a reminder that wildlife can appear at any moment in the Rockies. First, we spotted a bear grazing by the roadside, a rare sight that we felt very lucky to witness. Then, only a few minutes later, a deer crossed directly in front of us. Moments like these are incredible to witness, but they also highlight why it's so important to stay alert whenever you're driving through the national parks. Our next stop was Lake Minnewanka. The first thing that strikes you is its sheer size. Surrounded by mountains and stretching far into the distance, it feels completely different to many of Banff's other lakes. But beneath the surface lies a fascinating secret. When the lake was expanded by a dam, part of the original settlement was submerged, creating an underwater ghost town that still rests beneath the water today. Before heading back to Banff, we made one quick stop at Bankhead. Once a bustling coal mining town, today only traces of its history remain. It's a fascinating reminder that the Rockies aren't just about mountains and lakes. There's a rich human story here too. With another day of exploring behind us, it was time to head back to Banff. And naturally, we found ourselves returning to one of our favourite streets in the town, Bear Street. A coffee and a snack stop at Wildflower Bakery felt well deserved. After days of road trips, hikes and wildlife spotting, slowing down with a good coffee and something sweet was a perfect way to soak up the atmosphere of Banff one more time. Sometimes it's the simple moments that end up becoming your favourites.
And I'm really curious
What you got? What you got?
This is a Nanaimo bar, and we've got brownie as well.
Go on then. So like,
Kind of like a Rocky Road, but not. It's got like a biscuit base with cream in the middle and then chocolate on top.
Now it's time for our top tips.
Make sure to get there early. If you're planning to visit Johnston Canyon, arrive as early as possible. Not only will you enjoy a much quieter experience, but you'll also avoid the battle for parking later in the morning when the crowds start to arrive.
The walk itself was a little bit uphill, but the paths were really easy, wooden tracks. They are a little bit slippery, so you have to be quite careful.
Keep your eyes on the road. Wildlife sightings are one of the highlights of visiting Banff National Park, but animals can appear with very little warning. We saw both a bear and a deer within minutes of each other, so always drive carefully and expect the unexpected. And if you do happen to see something, make sure to stay in your car and give it space.
Be extra cautious during berry season. Late summer is peak berry season in the Rockies, which also means peak bear activity. Bears are often found feeding near trails and roadsides, so stay alert and always follow local wildlife guidance.
Don't rush Banff. It can be tempting to focus only on the famous lakes, but there is so much more to explore. Places like Johnston Canyon, Lake Minnewanka and Bankhead offer a completely different side of the Rockies and are well worth building into your itinerary.
Here's the thing about this day. Johnston Canyon doesn't just impress you, it humbles you. There's something about being inside a mountain with the water rushing past and the canyon walls closing in that puts everything else into perspective. And then, Minnewanka. We stood at the edge of that lake knowing there's an entire town underneath the water. Streets, buildings, a whole community that just disappeared. It sounds dramatic, but it genuinely changes the way you look at the surface of things. If you've got a full spare day in Banff, Bow Valley Parkway, Johnston Canyon, Minnewanka, in that order, don't rush it. This is the day that earns the mountains. But the Rockies aren't done with us yet. Next we're heading into Calgary, and if you think it's just a city you drive through on the way here, trust us, that's not the full story. If you're planning your own Banff trip, make sure you hit subscribe. We're covering Calgary next, and there's more to that city than most people realise. You won't want to miss it. We want to hear from you. Have you ever visited somewhere and discovered it was completely different to what you expected? Drop it in the comments below, we'll reply to everyone.